The FedUpward Podcast, a place for federal employees and friends of feds to find strategies and tactics to navigate everyday problems.
There's just so much information out there and so many things to look at that we're just trying to, have a little fun while we try to educate and help people.
And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
From launch pads
and liftoff
to research labs, civilian Fed life leads to many places, all covered by WEPA. WEPA offers fully portable group term life insurance for current and former civilian Feds. This coverage answers whatever life brings, with benefits that follow wherever service calls. WEPA. For Feds, by Feds.
Hi, Feds. This is Love Rutledge, host of the FedUpward Podcast, here with special guest Shawn Welsh today. He is a podcast host who helps veterans find what they're looking for as they transition from military life into civilian life. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Love. Looking forward to sitting down and having this conversation.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and I want to apologize to everybody who's listening to this. My voice is terrible. I've had a cold this week, so Shawn is definitely going to do all the talking in this episode. We want to hear all the great things he has to say, and you guys do not want to hear my voice at all right now. So, Shawn, let's start with your background and why you founded the VET S.O.S. podcast.
Easy enough. Yeah, so I did 20 years in the Army, retired in 23. Joined after 9/11. I had already graduated college. I actually came in a little later than most people. I was 28 when I joined, so I was a little bit older. Usually got along with the retirees, so I learned a lot along the way about the retirement process and getting out. So, paying attention to what they had to say. But ultimately, when I started my transition out of the military, I was fortunate to have some time on my hands with the assignment that I was in. And so I was able to, start early and really put some effort into it. And part of that was, getting into LinkedIn. And so through LinkedIn, I was starting to record some videos and do that and just sort of trying to figure out, the whole LinkedIn thing and what I was doing. And so I had a mentor, Trevor Houston from the Who You Know show, that I met through LinkedIn. It was actually the first transition program I did, has nothing to do with the military. And but they're all about helping people find get through the ATS system and working the whole job search thing and helping people just get out there more. And so him and I got to talking one day, and he's like, "Hey, you need to do a podcast." And I was like, "No, I don't. I don't have to do one at all. It's it wasn't something that was on my radar, not something that I had thought about doing." And so he kept badgering me and pestering me a little bit about it, and he saw something that I just hadn't seen yet. And so finally I agreed, okay, I can give this a try. So we started talking about ideas and what have you. And at that point, I'd been transitioning for about 6 months. And I was starting to learn about all these organizations that are out here. And so ultimately, we went with the idea of the military transition space. And his co-host for his show, Mark Elder, was actually a Air Force veteran. So he came on board to help me launch the podcast and was my co-host for the first year. And, basically, we just sort of almost built the airplane in flight, if you will. At one point, Trevor's like, "Just start recording already. You guys keep talking. Just start recording. Let's do something here." So, we started booking guests, and I started with the people that I'd met during my transition, the programs that I had done already. And from there, we're just able to build on it. And we've been doing it for 2.5 years now. And we're blessed that we're already booked out all the way through June of next year. And we launched 2 additional shows this year, one for entrepreneurship and one for educational benefits. Just to help the transitioning population learn more about what's out there. And that's our whole goal. It was our goal from the beginning, and that was to educate, the veteran, transitioning service member, and spouse population about, what's out there for them, because there's just so many things.
There are, and it's so difficult to wade through all the resources. It's an embarrassment of riches, but it's hard to find the tools that you specifically need when you're the one transitioning, right? I wanted to have you on the show to talk about this because I think a lot of current civilian employees who are not veterans don't understand how hard it is to make that transition and to find the right federal civilian job if that's the sector folks want to go into. Can you talk about some of the obstacles that veterans face as they are making the transition?
The first thing would be the ridiculous federal resume, which is just a monster in itself. You have your regular resume, and everybody kind of wants a little different spin on it. And to this day, I have never written a resume. I used a service, one of the transition services. They wrote my initial resume, and I got a job off of it. So I've never personally written a resume, but I've seen a lot of people do it. And by no means am I a resume expert, and I refer people out anytime they ask me about it because that is not my forte. But I have seen the federal resume process, and it seems very daunting. It still makes me kind of laugh because with the whole resume thing, we could do all of that through LinkedIn. If you kept your LinkedIn up to date, you could have everything on there, all the jobs you've had. You can provide a reference list off of that, and everything can be verified. So I don't know why we still use resumes, honestly, but unfortunately we still do. So it's a process. But there are programs out there that will help you go through the federal resume process. There's some people that do run classes and things like that. And my current co-host, Keith Kassan, actually works for the federal government. So he likes to help people when they have questions about the federal resume process and things like that.
A quick word from our sponsor. For more than 20 years, Clearance Jobs has connected professionals with federal government security clearances with employers to fill the jobs that safeguard our nation. The Clearance Jobs career community allows members to connect, engage, and explore opportunities and helps contract and government employers find talent. Create a free profile and learn more at www.clearancejobs.com.
But as far as the challenges, it starts with knowing what you want to do. Some people know right off the bat that they want to continue doing what they did in the military, or they always had a dream to do something different, and they know what that is. A lot of us are like me and have no clue what they want to do. And, when you get out, you just sort of start finding your way. And the big thing that I try to tell people is give yourself grace and understand that, that this is a process. Regardless of how long you spent in the military, you lived a very structured life. You were told what to do, where to be, what time to be there, what to wear. You didn't have to make a whole lot of decisions. And so now you have all these decisions you can make. So you're going to make some ones that aren't maybe the best ones. I'm not saying that they're bad decisions, but maybe you figure out, hey, this wasn't the right job for me, or this wasn't the right location to move to, or what have you. And, you just got to give yourself some grace and understand that the whole thing is a process. And it doesn't end just because you left the military, because you're going to continuously adjust. As a senior non-commissioned officer, that knife hand still comes out. It's like it's still there, and people laugh, and I don't do it on purpose. It's just I did it for so long, and so those things, those military things come out all the time. And it's just a continuous process because it's now really a part of who you are. And you just have to understand that, as you go through all this, you're going to temper some things. You're going to temper the language, the, different things that you maybe did or what have you in the military, but don't lose those skills that you learned and developed.
So if people want to find the VET S.O.S podcast or the other two that you mentioned earlier, where do they go to find you?
The easiest thing right now is to go to VET SOS we have links to everything right there. There's a separate tab for the entrepreneurial spotlight, which is, veteran spouse business owners that are coming on and talking about their entrepreneurial journey, the tools they used, things that can help you if you want to start your own business. We have the educational spotlight, which is, focused on programs that help you get into school, but also those programs on campus, so that you can take a look and say, hey, I love these two campuses, but this one has a better veteran program. I'm going to go over here, what have you. And just things to help you make your decisions. And of course, we have the regular transition stuff there as well. And, every organization we've interviewed, we have links, we have, pictures of their logo. So you can click on that and go to their website, or you can click the link below. It takes you right to the episode. And so you can learn about what they're doing and figure out what's best for you. And that, to me, is the important part. Alfredo Torres was one of our guests early on, and he said that transition's like a buffet. You go up to the buffet line and you pick and choose what you want. And that is still about the best analogy I've ever heard for transition, because you have to fill in the gaps that apply to you. Not everybody has the same needs and wants and desires, so you go up there and you figure out what you want. And so we try to bring as many resources forward as we can to help educate. And right now we're working on a couple additional shows. We're taking a look and seeing about possibly doing a spouse show, a veteran and military spouse show, possibly doing one for mentorship and coaching. So there's some different things we're looking at, but all things that still apply to the transition to help people, just learn more about what's out there and what they can use. And, it's unfortunately, there's a ton of things out there, so the good part of that is I'll never run out of episodes. The bad thing is there's a lot to sort through, and we're always looking for ways to improve our sorting process so you can actually look for specific topics too. So we have a lot of changes we have planned for 25, and we're excited about the path forward.
Fantastic. And I'll make sure we link that up in the show notes so folks can find you quickly, and find your podcast and your other shows as they come out and they're available. But I want to make sure that people circle back on what you said earlier about LinkedIn, about how we could do everything on LinkedIn if we set things up that way. You are a prolific LinkedIn poster, which I really appreciate because I get a lot of great info from you about federal jobs. And it's really cool to see your advocacy and the things that you put out there. So can you talk a little bit about the kinds of things you post on LinkedIn, and then any tips you have for current federal employees or for transitioning military folks about what they should be posting on LinkedIn?
Social media in general, I was really late to the game. Like I said, I came in at 28, so I was already a little bit older. I didn't have even a Facebook account until 07 or something like that. It had been quite a while. And I got that for a game, just I think I'd had shoulder surgery. I was looking for something to do. I was bored at the house. So I was never really a social media person, and being intelligence, military intelligence, I stayed away from a lot of it. So a lot of it's been a learning curve the last couple of years in trying to figure everything out. Now we have the podcast out on all the social media platforms, all the podcast platforms. And really, to me, it's about consistency. So what I did when I started with LinkedIn is I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I took an analytical approach to it, and every day of the week I had a different theme of different areas that I thought I'd like to work in. And so I started posting in these different areas and seeing what kind of response I was getting. And then, from there, I was able to whittle it down a little bit. And then, of course, doing the informational interviews and things like that, I was really able to cut it down to what I wanted to do. But that was how I started. Now it's mainly focused on the transition thing, not about, my regular job or anything like that. It's only about the podcast and the transition space, trying to help and educate, and that's what we're about. So, I try to post. I actually do 2 posts typically every day. One comes from my personal account, and it has something to do with a transition topic, whether it's the resume, the interview, dressing yourself, and normally it's clowning on myself when I talk about dressing, because if my wife didn't have style, I'd really be screwed. But because I have no style whatsoever. And then, of course, the podcast we put out, the different things about the show. We have a newsletter for the podcast, and we also do a who's who on Fridays to, people you should be, following in the transition space to gain all kinds of information about what they have going on. And it'll flood your inbox essentially. Your whole feed will be, transition stuff if you start following a lot of these people. So, we're trying to do what we can to educate and try to have fun with it too. And honestly, that's why we're still doing the podcast. We have more fun than we should. And really, it probably should be illegal.
Well, I sure hope not, because we need folks like you getting information out, people who've been through it and who can see the humor and, some of the absurdities of the bureaucracy and the process. And I really appreciate what you do, and thank you for being here on my show today. Again, we'll link everything up on the show notes so that people who are in the process of transitioning can find you. And for federal employees who are supervisors, who are hiring, if you want insight into the veteran transition process, what folks are facing, and want to learn more, you can go there to get more information as well. Shawn, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you. Love this. Has been amazing. So much fun. And, there's just so much information out there and so many things to look at. We're just trying to, have a little fun while we try to educate and help people. And I truly believe that what we're doing can have an impact and can help people improve their own stuff as well. And we tell that to the school people we interview as well. We're hoping it becomes a tool for them so that they can take best practices. So, we talk to these different organizations, and who knows who's going to use that and make their organization better. And, in the long run, hopefully we can all have a smoother transition.
Thanks for listening, friends. If you liked what you heard today, I hope you'll subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend. To join my mailing list, head over to FedUpwardCoaching.com/podcast. Talk soon.